This dude is Nagi, yeah, like that lil sucker from Blue Locker, but while that dude kicks balls, this one takes balls. Pause. I mean, not only balls, dude has this infinite bag where he can put anything and everything inside like your favorite OUEF creator. But unfortunately, Lil Bro is in the lowest white rank possible. At least he's so good at filling that bag he is paid 5 times more than your average porter. But Nagi's dream is to become a real adventurer, the ones that actually fight. But in this world, having no talents is like being born at 1 and 50 centimeters and being an ugly dude. You don't have the luxury of choosing anything. So he just works as a porter for his whole life. But I gotta give credit. Even without skills, Nagi's has a genius way to fight by using multiple items from his bag, creating traps, item combos, and even paradises inside dungeons for adventurers to relax. But that's of course is not enough. And when he's about to forfeit this dream, he meets this gigantic thighed female called Agnisa, a S-rank goddess that I would like to step on me with black stockings. When that happens, I mean Nagi meeting her, he starts to discover that his years and years of observing adventurers in the dungeon have been teaching his body more than he thought. Also, bro's like Rock Lee and has been practicing the same slash for ages. Now, it's time for Nagi to become an actual adventurer and eradicate the dungeons that killed his family from this world. But is that really possible? How can the lowest rank become strong enough to face off dungeons without a Sung Jin Woo system that makes you climb ranks by doing push-ups? This story has genius boy, thick thighs, and insane art. What more you want, Gi? Let's get it. The boy starts off saying, "This world I live in is full of all kinds of dungeons. A cave-type dungeon is created, a labyrinth-type dungeon gets added, and there's even a tower of trials. This is a world of grand dungeons and countless treasures lie within them. In this place, the greatest honor someone can achieve is becoming an adventurer and gathering wealth from the dungeons. But not just anyone can become an adventurer. You have to be one of the chosen. And him? Doesn't really seem like it, right? He's just walking through the brush with a giant backpack on his back. Near the country borders, you see folks trying to cross like that too. There's probably 3 rags stuffed in that sack. Tomato Nose looks at him and says, ahead of here is the dungeon. Only those with permission are allowed to enter. But then he notices the boy's little necklace and asks if he's a bag, and yeah, this guy's the sucker of the day. His rank is white porcelain. Name, Naji. Oh, what, you getting in to kick a ball or something? The old guy then says, go on and already. But I gotta say, it's kinda embarrassing, you showing up late with nothing but a backpack. Apparently, adventurers these days don't know the meaning of respect. But where are the other porters? Normally, you pay 50 gold coins and a bunch of them show up to carry everything. Nagi pats his chest and says that apparently he's one of the best when it comes to hauling big stuff. His salary alone is 50 gold coins. The guy claps sarcastically and asks if he's lying. Tells him to quit the nonsense because for that kind of money, they should have sent 4 or 5 people. Then the lube-mouth kid replies, you see those backpacks? You're not only going to carry those, you're also going to have to haul the luxuries from the dungeon. Think you can handle that? And now that I'm actually looking at him, I thought this guy was a guard, but it looks like he's gonna be part of Nagi's party. Then he says that if the kid can't handle it, you can go ask the association for help right now. Nagi walks up and says, damn, you guys have a lot of stuff for a group of just 4. While thinking, he notes that this reaction is pretty common. It's not normal for a porter to earn 50 gold coins a day when most only get 10. In cases like this, instead of making excuses or trying to explain, it's better to just show how it's done. He tosses the big pack to the ground, grabs all the smaller backpacks, and starts stuffing them inside. The guys by the campfire are all just watching, and the moment they realize he's using a magic backpack you already know, they're gonna want to steal it. Everyone's scratching their heads, wondering where the items went, how this magic thing works, how much it costs. Naji, all crooked from the weight, says, sorry loser, only I can use this, so back off. The other blonde dude tells them to stay put. As impressive as the backpack is, what difference is it gonna make in a real fight? After all, the kid was only hired to carry items. This guy's name is Jepnam. Yeah, weird name, gold rank. He throws his arm forward and says that Naji better be worth every single gold coin. Obviously, he needs to perform as well as 5 people or it's not worth the cost. Nagi wonders if this guy is the leader of the group. He seems like a hardest, but it's fine. After all, he's a professional porter. And before this dungeon run ends, he's gonna make sure everyone walks out happy. This Nagi is a peculiar one, and now he starts explaining why he earns way more than the other porters. It's not just because of his ability to carry a ton of stuff. It's also because he makes adventurers extremely satisfied. Alright then, adventurers go into dungeons to hunt and face all kinds of danger, traps that can be triggered at any time, ambushes from monsters, and coordinated attacks. These guys are taking heavy hits, and this is exactly the kind of situation Naji has been preparing for. The stress of being in a place like that is intense, and he knows how to handle it. The blonde guy yells, didn't your balloon heads get told to keep your guard up, idiots? One blames the other. Nobody wants to admit they messed up. Watching all this, Naji says he took advantage of that gap in the market. What is he? A coach. And here he comes, pulling out the giant backpack and calling everyone over, saying he knows they must be starving after non-stop hunting. That's why a top-tier meal just arrived. The two clueless guys stare at him, drooling, trying to figure out what that amazing smell is. Yep, the kid really brought a feast. That's his secret skill, dungeon restaurant. Tomato Cheek is biting into the protagonist's meat and says it's delicious, like it was just freshly made. The other one, the veggie guy, agrees too. Dude's emotional. He's never eaten anything this good inside a dungeon. Right away, they ask if Nagi's backpack really keeps everything fresh or if it's some kind of natural ability. What's going on? He says he can't explain too much. The important part is, it's way too early for them to be impressed. And then with a quick motion, bam, he pulls out a whole bathtub for the guys. The bearded guy wonders if he's somehow at a resort all of a sudden. The surroundings weren't exactly paradise, but the feeling, it was amazing. Then, out of nowhere, the blonde guy calls out to them. He asks if, by any chance, they think they're on vacation. Are they seriously not realizing they're still in the middle of a dungeon? What they needed was discipline. Still, he's not gonna lie. This water is heavenly. So he says he has no choice but to enjoy it a bit himself. Then he goes, man, I really wanted to believe you were worth those 50 gold coins. I was even thinking about complaining to the association and asking for compensation. But now I realize with everything you've brought to the table, 50 gold coins was a bargain. Nagi nearby says that dungeon crawling is definitely exhausting. People think the hard part is just fighting monsters, but there are tons of other issues that come up. Some hunters end up starving, can't fight properly, and die. And as a porter, he always keeps in mind, he only gets paid if the adventurers make it through the dungeon. That's why he puts in his best effort to make sure they succeed. The bearded guy laughs and says this kid is way too humble. Not even if they hired the top folks from their guild would they be treated like this. He'd never felt anything like it before. That bath filled him with energy, and now he's sure he can take on any enemy. He jumps up, all fired up, and Nagi looks to the side like, this dude's out of control. But just like he said, things inside went smoothly after that. The group was already skilled in combat, so they handled huge swarms of monsters with ease. The real issue, as always, was the boss. That's because these kinds of monsters are obviously full of randomness and unpredictability. The blonde guy says this one's especially sneaky. Looks like that T-Rex from Toy Story, walking all wobbly, while everyone's yelling not to let it get an opening. The beast lifts its claw, slams it down, and one of the guys dives to the side and fires an arrow straight into its hand. The attack triggers a spider web trap, but even so, the creature charges forward and whips its tail, slamming it right into his shield. But the blonde guy swings in from the side, draws his sword, and lands a solid hit with his positive attribute talent, slicing off that tail clean. Obviously, the boss keeps firing off some little magic attacks, but the blonde guy's blocking like a champ, and man, they really are tanking through it. Suddenly, the boss unleashes fire everywhere while Nagi stays hidden. This boss is the Zarkum Lizard, a rank B creature. Based on what he's seen from the party so far, Nagi estimates they got an 80% chance of winning. But 80% still means there's a 20% chance of failure. And if they lose, Nagi gets nothing. So he's got to make sure it doesn't happen. A little help wouldn't hurt. He rummages through his backpack, finds something, and says that this should do the trick. These guys already have the strength. All he needs to do is create a small opening. It's just a shame they'll have to use this mimic mushroom, which is ridiculously expensive. But as always, the main goal is to finish the job. The boss charges in again, ready to chomp right down on the blonde guy. But Nagi says it doesn't matter how unpredictable its moves are. All he needs is to calculate the perfect moment and throw it. The boss sees the giant mushroom coming. It explodes right on its head in a thick cloud of smoke. While the creature's coughing and reeling, the blonde guy asks what that was. Nagi simply raises a pom-pom and says the perfect chance to attack has arrived. The blonde guy grins. He uses the opportunity to scale the beast's tail, climbs up its back, makes his way to the top of its head, and drives his weapon straight into the skull. Man, that thing weighs like 500 kilos. It just crushes the lizard's dome. Right after, he gets up, compliments everyone's effort, and tells them to gather the loot. And just like that, that day's dungeon was wrapped up without much trouble. But as always, the cheerful mood didn't last long. That's because they were supposed to collect at least 20 rank B stones from that creature. But in the end, they only got 5 stones and a bunch of low-level items. And what made it worse was that most of the monsters that showed up this time were just basic creatures like goblins. If you put everything on a scale, who was there, who took part, what they actually earned, it was clearly a total loss. And now they have to split the loot, which already wasn't much to begin with. In a split second, the cheerful mood from finishing the dungeon just vanished, and now everyone's yelling at each other. Even something as simple as dividing up the rewards became a sensitive subject, but it's fine. That kind of thing happens with adventurers. Nagi's just there to carry items, so he doesn't care about all that. Besides, his salary is fixed, he's not stressing about any of this. So he pulls out 2 bottles and calls everyone over, saying they must be thirsty. The blonde guy asks if he's seriously still looking after the group even now that the job's over, and he admits it, that smoke grenade Nagi threw at the boss was the clutch moment of the fight. Honestly, they got super lucky having run into this kid. I don't know, this blonde guy's acting way too nice. Our boy says he's just giving a hand with the humble skills he's got, but Jepnum cuts in saying no, that's not humble at all. The more he sees, the more impressed he gets. That backpack of his creates some insane stuff, and it doesn't even seem to have a limit. Maybe there's more valuable stuff inside that thing than in the entire dungeon. Just because I said it. Now they're all wondering if there's a pretty decent stash of money hidden in there. I mean, if he gets paid 50 gold coins every time he joins a dungeon run, he's definitely racked up a fortune. They really did hit the jackpot finding this kid. Everyone's looking at him now, with that greedy look in their eyes. Nagi tries to brush it off, saying, "Hey fellas, this conversation's getting kinda weird, how about you drink this instead?" But they smash the bottle in his hand. He dodges the first arrow. The second one's already coming as they start asking themselves what the hell they're doing. He pulls a full-on Matrix move, dodges again, and tells them to just say what's going on. The bearded guy apologizes, says it was a mistake. He just wanted to end it quickly and without pain. They had to understand an adventurer can't risk their life and walk away empty-handed. The guy with the beanie adds, "Hey man, don't blame us. Things are rough for us too, you know. We gotta pay taxes, you get it. Besides, you got way too much stuff in that backpack and someone who's just here to carry gear isn't even gonna use it." Nagi starts getting up, wondering if it's always gonna be like this. People act like it's normal for a porter to die in the middle of a dungeon, because technically they're not supposed to know how to fight. And obviously, if they kill him right now, they'll just say he got taken out by a goblin or something. Whatever. No one's gonna care. The happy expressions those guys had when they were thanking him for all the help, gone. Just like that. Now they're looking at him like he's loot. But he's not shaken. Not surprised either. Because this is familiar. The truth is, this kind of thing happens all the time in this world. A place where everything you can achieve in life is decided the moment you're born. And of course, the treatment someone like him gets, a porter, is among the worst. Nothing changed the day he was born, and nothing's changed since. He remembers clearly the moment he found out that his skill was a backpack. The looks of disgust everyone gave him after seeing it. That hot receptionist from the guild, she straight up told him that with a skill like his, he'd never qualify to be an adventurer. His job was always going to be transport. If he wanted to enter a dungeon, it'd be as someone hauling stuff in a bag. Nagi never even had the chance to become an adventurer. That one stamp on his record locked in his profession, and that was the end of it. That's probably what these guys are thinking right now too. Q-Tip tells him to stop resisting and just die already, then leaps forward, launching his spear and yelling for the idiot to disappear. But oh man, here we go. Nagi starts moving, thinking that this decision to become a porter was never something he actually chose. He reaches toward his own side to pull something out, but stops mid-motion while blocking the spear. Q-Tip's confused and Nagi charges in straight to land a clean punch to the mouth. Bearded guy's thrown off too and tries to swing in return, but Nagi pulls out a little axe and hurls it spinning, hits him square in the chest. The other two are just standing there, completely stunned. The blonde one has no idea what's happening. Q-Tip had passed out in a split second. Right away, the blonde guy snaps, saying that pathetic scumbag couldn't even beat a kid like that. Two more rush in, but Nagi pulls out some kind of water device and blasts it at them. It's boiling water. He charges in through the steam and delivers a strike. Still, he hasn't killed anyone. He's actually going easy on them, just dishing out punches to the face, the stomach, the chest. The idiots are all face planted against the wall while the blonde guy is still standing there, totally lost. How the hell did this kid take down 3 adventurers just like that? He starts yelling that it's impossible. Nagi's ranked white. How could he pull something like this off? But Nagi's got things in that backpack. Then he glances over his shoulder and says not to worry about it. He's just the group's porter, after all. Naturally, not long after, everyone's tied up outside, beaten to a pulp. Nagi notices a carriage pulling up. He raises his hand and says they're right over here. Something good's stepping out of that carriage. And honestly, he's hoping it's not a dude. He's betting on those thighs. Turns out it's Dungeon Inspector Petra, who says she heard what happened. But why is everyone so bruised and swollen? Everyone got wrecked. She asks what happened and Nagi goes, ask them. They'll explain everything. Actually, he had used his bag earlier to secretly record what they'd said about killing the porter, and now it's playing everything back. Petra finds it fascinating that he had a recording device hidden inside the bag. She says he's definitely a unique kid. He explains that it's not exactly a recorder. It's more like storing sound itself inside the backpack. She says whatever, the point is she gets it. Those guys betrayed him and tried to kill him. What she doesn't understand is how he, a mere porter, managed to defeat 4 adventurers. On top of that, they look like they've been poisoned with ashwood mushrooms. Nagi says he's impressed she knows about those. She responds, of course she knows. Those mushrooms make your muscles lock up, make you dizzy, and turn your face purple. Nagi says it's easy to explain. Coincidentally, they ended up eating a soup that had those mushrooms in it. And right when they tried to attack him, the symptoms kicked in. He just got lucky. Otherwise, how could someone like him have possibly won? He steps over to the blonde guy and asks if that's not the truth. The blonde guy's trembling all over. But obviously, that's a total lie. We saw him beat them down. Sure ate the mushrooms, but it wasn't on purpose. Long before they even started fighting seriously, they were already caught in this kid's trap. Then Nagi asks if they're really supposed to be gold-ranked adventurers. And bam, clash of swords with the blonde guy. They start going at it. Slash here. Counter there, Nagi ducks low. The blonde one noticed something was off. Even if they burned all their energy on the boss fight, it still didn't make sense that they were getting completely wrecked by this backpack kid. But Nagi just laughs, wondering how the guy even managed to kill a goblin being that slow. The blonde guy's sure he's losing because he's being humiliated, and that mockery is throwing him off completely. There's no way he was gonna lose to this backpack kid. Not a chance, he just had to calm down and finish him off now. But after one more swing, he misses again, muttering that maybe next time he'll land a hit. Another mistake. And now he's saying, maybe next time. He powers up his sword with a golden aura and fires off a blast. But Nagi just hops up and laughs midair, saying he's getting better. That just pisses the guy off even more. He tries another upward slash, but now Nagi's already beneath him. That's when he starts to get it. He didn't lose to this kid because Nagi was stronger. He lost because he himself had gotten weaker. The blonde guy starts wondering what's happening to his body. He's overwhelmed by this strange, sick feeling like he's about to throw up. Nagi casually asks if he didn't give them a heads up already. Forgot to mention, they were all poisoned. That tasty meat they loved so much during the meal. Yeah, it already had the toxic mushrooms mixed in. Not only do those mushrooms make food taste amazing, but they're also great for dealing with people who like to cheat their way out of paying. Blondie hears that and groans, calling him a damn bastard. Says he was betrayed before he even did anything. Nagi nods and says, yep, that's exactly right. I mean, how's a delicate porter like him supposed to trust shady adventurers like them? Once they'd eaten the mushrooms, all they needed was to smell a catalyst for the effects to kick in. Nagi's plan was if everything went smoothly, he'd hand over the antidote and no one would even get sick. But no, these geniuses decided to make the worst possible move and shatter his bottle. Now he's holding the last bottle and wondering out loud what he's supposed to do with it. The blonde guy knows it, no matter how it went down, even if they claim they were poisoned and betrayed, the story would make sense to anyone. And crying, he just says he's telling the truth. They went into that place, ate something wrong, and that's why they're like this. No way in hell he's going to admit he got beat down by the backpack kid. That would be an even bigger humiliation than just looking like a fool. Petra's there, staring at the four of them crying, completely confused. Then she calls over a guard and tells him to take these criminals away. Meanwhile, Nagi goes, farewell, my friends, I'm heading out, my work here is done. But Petra calls out for him to wait. She asks if he'd like a ride back to the city. He glances over his shoulder and asks, is it free? Cut to them already in the carriage. She says it's a shame. He went through such a mess right after arriving in the city. On behalf of the entire Hunters Association, she wants to apologize. He tells her not to worry. Adventurers and porters like him are used to stuff like this. She says she gets it, but there are still things he should be more careful about. She knows he wasn't the one at fault this time, but not everyone's going to see it that way. Especially since the adventurers he took down were from the Dawn Guild. They're notorious for being arrogant and ignoring the rules. And even if Nagi wasn't in the wrong here, those guys are definitely going to want payback. So all she asks is that he be more cautious from now on. But mid-conversation, she starts looking confused because all of a sudden, something's eating Nagi from inside his own backpack. He calmly says he hears it and asks the creature to stop. Whatever it is, spits him back out. Our boy sighs and tells Gluttony to quit popping out in front of people and get back in the bag. The creature whines that it's starving and Petra's like, what the hell is that thing? Nagi tells her not to worry. That's Gluttony, a creature that's been living inside the backpack. Who knows how long? He's the one who organizes everything in there. Before Gluttony showed up, things were a mess. Swords tangled together, ropes all knotted up. In exchange for keeping it all tidy, the little monster eats the stones Nagi earns. And considering how crazy today's been, that thing's probably got a whole lot of organizing to do. At the same time, on the other hand, Gluttony had a lot to eat, since everything from that dungeon, which was supposed to be split among 4 adventurers, ended up going straight into Nagi's backpack. Nagi tells Gluttony to go ahead and eat twice the usual amount of mana stones if he wants. All cute and happy, the little creature grabs one and starts munching. Petra finds it odd. She's never heard of a magical being that eats mana stones. Nagi says it's the first time he's seen one too, but there's no need to worry. It's just a little guy who likes fair trade. She says, you're kind of fascinating, or rather, a backpack of yours is definitely something else. I've never seen anything like it. But before she can finish her sentence, the horse suddenly bucks and the carriage starts shaking. She asks what's wrong, and the soldier says he has no idea. The beast just won't calm down. Out of nowhere, Nagi feels something weird. His expression shifts, serious. A strange sensation, one he had no doubt about. A dungeon break. But why was it happening here, of all places? He immediately calls out to the inspector and points in a direction, saying there's a dungeon over there that's about to break. She looks shaken. It's a massive problem. But how the hell did he know that? Did he have some kind of detection tool hidden away too? He replies that it's just instinct. She doesn't buy it. But he tells her they don't have time for her to believe or not believe. They need to move, warn the others before things spiral and casualties pile up. Even so, Petra is still turning it over in her head, sensing a dungeon break by instinct alone. That was absurd. Even she, a highly respected inspector, couldn't do that. Gluttony lets out a little burp and casually confirms it's a dungeon break. Says he loves eating magic stones and can smell one coming from miles away. More importantly, he's picking up an extremely strong scent coming from beyond that mountain. So yeah, he's absolutely sure. I thought they were gonna run away, but nope, they're heading over to check it out. A dungeon break is something that happens when a dungeon remains open for too long. When no one clears it, it eventually goes through a catastrophic shift, basically your classic solo leveling copy. Petra confirms it really is a dungeon break. And worse, it's already past the critical point. Any minute now, monsters are going to start pouring out. But again, how the hell did Nagi feel that from so far away? He answers that it's a feeling he'll never forget. Not only can he forget it, he doesn't want to forget it. He remembers exactly how terrifying it is when something like that happens. You've got pterodactyls flying around, 6-armed demon things crawling out. What even is he? Some kind of guy from the future? Or from the underworld? Petra is still trying to piece it together. When did this kid ever go through something like that? And she keeps wondering how she didn't sense anything herself. Nagi says something's not right here. If this dungeon is so close to the city, why didn't any adventurers show up to subjugate it? Petra checks the registry and says that this dungeon had already been assigned to someone a long time ago. Naturally, Nagi wants to know who accepted it and never came. She replies that this place was marked as a rank D dungeon, and it was accepted by mithril-ranked adventurers, so it should have been taken care of by now. The moment Nagi hears that, suspicion starts building. He says he's going to need to find out what's going on in the city and asks what she's planning to do. Petra tells the guard to take the little criminals to jail and says she'll help the kid. So they head for the city. Not long after, they arrive and come face to face with a huge crowd yelling in the streets. Clearly, something weird was going on. The townspeople are shouting that the dungeon's been there for ages and no one's done a thing about it. If a dungeon break happens, why is everyone dragging their feet? One guy is sitting around totally unbothered. Then there's Miro, a martial artist, who says they should be talking to the guild leader, not to them. The other guy sitting there, Vendeshtar, coldly says to pass the message along. This isn't their responsibility. The townspeople are furious, calling them bastards. And nearby, Nagi's now absolutely sure his suspicions were right. The name for this kind of thing is Dungeon No-Show. Though honestly, not everything needs a name, author. Basically, someone buys the rights to a dungeon and then never shows up. It happens when a high-ranked adventurer has nothing better to do and takes a weak dungeon. But then a better one appears, and they abandon the first. Petra says that, yeah, that does happen sometimes. But in those cases, the association issues a fine. Nagi, however, points out that for a mithril-ranked adventurer swimming in cash, a fine is just pocket change. And even if that guy gets off scot-free, the people in this town lose everything. That dungeon's probably going to break tonight. And even if they call every squad from the association, barely any will make it in time. And the worst part, watching those other two adventurers standing there making lame excuses. That guy Deshtar is going on about how they're victims too. If their leader doesn't show up, how are they supposed to handle anything? People should stop blaming them and take it up with the association. Watching this unfold, Nagi can't help but think, adventurers are supposed to be heroes. But in the end, they're just selfish people chasing profit. The real problem is, in situations like this, their power is what's needed. Only they have the strength to stop something like this. Nagi can't fix it just being a simple porter. Wait, so is he weak or strong now? I'm confused. Did he really only win because of the mushrooms? What's going on? Petra says the best thing they can do is evacuate the village. Saving lives has to come first. But Nagi grabs his necklace and asks if she really thinks they'll be able to save anyone. She tells him to explain, and he does. Winter is coming. And with it, here comes Jon Snow and the Iron Throne. Once everyone loses their homes, how are they supposed to survive? He throws the necklace aside and says it's hopeless. What this village needs right now isn't a porter. Wait, did his badge just change? He shouts out for them to take a good look at what's happening here. A dungeon break unfolding right in the village he happened to visit. Then he turns to Petra and asks, is it true that whoever stops a dungeon break gets to keep all the rewards tax-free? She confirms it, and he replies that this is the perfect chance to make some serious money. The two adventurers are looking around, confused, wondering who this nutcase is, and if he's actually planning to challenge the dungeon. But then their expressions change the moment they see he's wearing a gold rank adventurer badge. Ah, right, they're thinking he probably stole it from that chump earlier. Nagi then asks if they want in. If so, the split is 9 for him and 1 for the losers. Just like that, it's finally time. Time for him to be an adventurer. Also, just now realizing, these chapter lengths are insane, guys. I'm still on chapter 2. What is this? Anyway, the story takes a second to explain what rift dungeons are. They serve as gateways connecting Earth to unknown worlds. To enter one of these, it's recommended to be at least gold rank. The difficulty isn't just about the monsters. Obviously, you'll have to fight strong ones. That's expected. But one of the major problems is that it's nearly impossible to gauge how dangerous these dungeons are from the outside. The wind conditions can be totally unpredictable. That's why most adventurers avoid these like the plague, way too risky. With the 4 of them, they're going in for a speedrun. Petra says she checked the magic field, and it looks like the dungeon will break in about an hour. Nagi already knows. That's how long he has to clear everything. All they can hope is that it's an easy dungeon. No more talking, they can't afford to waste a single second. It's time to go in. A golden flash of light bursts out, and when they open their eyes, they're in a completely different world. Chunks of floating rock everywhere. Nero is all hyped up, saying it was nighttime just a second ago, and now they're in some new place where it's bright as day. And oh my god, that Vendeshtar dude is they're saying today's finally the day he conquers his very first dungeon. This guy's insane, throwing himself into this as his first real experience. No way. He's claiming he's about to unleash such incredible power that everyone's gonna be left speechless. Petra just mutters that they're screwed and Naji agrees. Guys, this looks like that Steam game. Go up. They're gonna have to keep climbing all the way up to that little castle at the top. And the worst part, they only got 1 hour to finish it. Petra wants to know why he lied about being a gold rank adventurer. Magi replies that they don't really have time to explain, they just need to get this started now. If he'd shown up offering help as just a porter, those two would never have agreed to join in. But now, with the gold badge, he's not only got them following him, he's got them listening to him. Petra agrees. In the end, what matters most is saving the citizens. Meanwhile, Nero just giggles and tells them to stop worrying. Humans are slow and useless anyway, but she'll reach the top alone and fast. She's already hopping from rock to rock like she's on a trampoline. Destro is standing there, confused and impressed, but he notes something feels kinda dangerous. Suddenly, a glowing bracelet appears around her wrist, and she gets yanked back to the ground. The guy tells her to use her brain. She needs to think before charging ahead like an idiot. The tall girl tells him to stop picking fights, while the rest of them are already bickering again. Petra steps in and tells everyone to calm down. In a dungeon like this, it's normal to check for curses first. She activates her magic, and they all see chains connecting the 4 of them. Is this not literally a Steam game, or am I losing it? Anyway, the important part, all 4 of them have to make it to the top. No one can go sprinting off alone. Nagi comments that flashy tricks won't work in this place, but it's fine, because if there's one thing he's got, it's climbing gear. One of them looks confused, wondering why he's so prepared for this kind of thing. He just says they should get started already, they'd only have an hour. One step at a time is the key to clearing this kind of dungeon. You can't waste all your energy trying to reach the top too fast, but at the same time, if you're too slow, you'll run out of time. He keeps leaping from one floating rock to the next, telling everyone to stay in rhythm with him. They all have to keep the chain connection in mind and maintain the minimum required distance. Nero says he's way too slow and that she's going ahead on her own. But he explains if you just dash forward, take a dumb path, and end up having to double back, you're gonna lose time. They need to move slowly and stick to the correct route, because this is a one-way trip. The idea is simple. Follow the most precise path. The problem is that this type of dungeon is full of variables. Right in front of him is some flying creature that looks like a hippo eating a boulder. The thing chomps through the very route he had calculated. Naji never imagined something like this would even exist. Petra explains that it's a flying stone-eating pig. The good news, it's not aggressive. Just don't provoke it and it'll leave you alone. The bad news, it's eating the floating rocks, which happen to be the only path they can use. Still, she's impressed, saying the ecosystem in this place is incredible. The creature eats rock, poots rock, and ends up creating new paths. But for Naji, this is a disaster. The route he planned out is now gone. He says he's got an idea. He wants to throw something to trap the creature. The problem is, if he misses, he might accidentally provoke it and turn it into an aggressive monster. Deshtar tells him to chill. If the creature charges at them, he'll handle it. He says it's finally his time to shine. He stretches out his arm and tells everyone to watch closely. He's about to show them what he can do. That's how Vendeshtar overcame any challenge. He used a necromancy talent called Finger Summon, and a bunch of clay golems started appearing all around him. Naji actually compliments him, saying it might just work. But then he notices the golems are already cracking apart, and asks why they're falling apart so fast. Nero chimes in, Deshtar is kind of famous back in the beginner zones. Nobody trusts anything he summons. Most of the time, they either don't work or explode. Not to mention, the guy always ends up passing out and drooling like a fool. But the guy insists, he says he can maintain these incredible creations for 5 minutes, and that should be enough. Nagi's thinking this is probably not a good idea, but he doesn't have time to plan something else. So that's it. They're going for it before everything blows up. He throws the harpoon, and one of Deshtar's creatures jumps to grab it. But instead, it smacks the flying pig right in the face. Apparently, there's a sensory connection between the summoner and the summoned, because Deshtar flinches and groans in pain. Now that they're crossing the rope, Magi thinks to himself that while this place is tough and weird, they actually got lucky. His companion's skills are useful, and the fact that he's got all kinds of gear in his backpack, as always, makes things a lot easier. That is, until Deshtar suddenly tells everyone to hurry, the golems are falling apart. He's not sure why, but everything feels like it's about to explode. He's losing control, and being suspended mid-air by a rope is not helping. Sure enough, the golems start blowing up. One of the blasts lands directly on the pig monster, which lets out a roar of pain. The rope they were relying on, yeah, it snaps. Everyone's falling, and they all know they're screwed. There's no way they're getting out of this alive. Nagi shouts at them to grab onto whatever they can, thinking even if they survive the fall, there won't be enough time to reach the top anymore. At the very least, he needs to soften the landing. And of course, to fix it, he whips something out of the backpack. Turns out it's actually a pretty simple solution. They land on a big stone, using the backpack not just as padding, but as a trampoline to bounce back up. He uses a grappling hook, and everyone manages to grab onto a higher rock. Petra thanks him, saying they're all safe thanks to him. But now they've lost a lot of progress. Can they really make it to the top in time? Nagi says there's no other choice. From this point on, they can't rely on their abilities anymore. Everyone needs to get ready. They're going straight up vertical style. He hands out frog-style climbing gear to everyone, while repeating the same thing over and over. If one person falls, they all fail, so they better stay sharp. They dodge falling rocks, pass through a freezing region, run from a monkey's banana, and even bump into a Pokemon. They're totally exhausted now, asking how much farther they have to go. Nagi says they're almost there, but they snap back saying he's already said that 10 times. Nero complains, I became an adventurer to fight monsters, not climb a mountain. Nagi tells her to shut it and just look up. The castle is right there. The bad news, there's clearly a boss guarding it too. But the two were actually excited, finally happy they got something to kill. If they take that thing down, maybe Nero will finally get promoted out of bronze rank. Nagi says now it all makes sense. Based on their physical abilities and talents, there's no way these two should still be bronze. Destra's probably still stuck there because nobody likes necromancers, and Nero is from a race that was enslaved until recently. They're all pumped now, fully confident that their gold rank teammate is gonna take care of it. But Petra speaks up, telling everyone to calm down. She says there's something strange going on. That boss up there? It looks like the Serpentor dragon, but normally those creatures aren't purple. The only time their scales ever turn that color is when they're already dead. Nagi looks surprised. We see a sword stuck in the ground and a guy stretching like he just woke up from a nap. He had already killed the dragon, and now he's looking around asking what all the fuss is about. Then he glances back and spots Nagi approaching. At that exact moment, Nagi feels a murderous intent. Before anyone can react, the guy rockets toward the group. In a split second, he's standing face to face with Nagi. That's when Nagi notices the emblem on his chest. Mithril rank. It hits him immediately. This was even worse than someone just accepting a dungeon and not showing up. The newcomer says this is a big problem. He figured no one would come in here and casually informs them that this dungeon is supposed to break. Nagi remembers there are people in this world who deliberately make things worse on purpose. The guy clenches his fists and says it's a shame, but the 4 of them died trying to clear a dungeon heroically. The next chapter opens up explaining how this world has dungeons and rankings. At the bottom of the pile are the poor souls born with white rank talents. Usually, they're the ones stuck mining or picking up leftovers. Step 2 is becoming a bronze adventurer. Normally useless folks like that blonde kid all talk and barely kills anything. Obviously, on the other hand, even someone ranked bronze is still way stronger than a regular human. Then you've got the silver rank folks. Those ones start to show some real skill. Most of them can handle normal dungeons just fine. Next up are the gold rank adventurers. People at that level are usually captains with their own dungeon parties. Those are the standard ranks. But then there's a rare class, an elite few that almost nobody gets to see. These are the mithril rank adventurers. People refer to them as something beyond human. Their power level is so ridiculous, it's hard to even comprehend. And now one of them is standing right in front of Nagi, who knows he's completely screwed. Just from the guy's aura, it's obvious. Even if the 4 of them attacked together, they wouldn't stand a chance. Nagi quietly asks Petra if she knows who this is. She says of course she does. There are only a handful of mithril adventurers in the world. She knows exactly who this arrogant jerk from the Dao Guild is. He's the captain of a vanguard squad known as Berserker Duriken. Duriken says now he recognizes her. She's the girl from the association, then asks what she's doing down here pretending to be an adventurer, especially considering she's white rank. But Petra fires back, she's the one who wants answers. Why is he here? She steps right up, bold as ever, and asks why the hell he didn't clear the dungeon if he already reserved it. Preventing a dungeon break was his responsibility, so why wasn't he doing anything? Duriken just laughs and asks what responsibility she's talking about. Adventurers do what they want, for their own benefit, and sometimes letting a dungeon break brings more profit than clearing it. Nagi's standing there thinking, I already knew adventurers weren't heroes, but I didn't expect to meet garbage like this guy. If Duriken really wants to cause a dungeon break, then Nagi has to stop him. The problem is, he's mithril. Fighting him head-on would be suicide. So for now, the plan's different. Suddenly, Nagi shifts his tone and acts all friendly, saying that the great mithril rank Duriken must be misunderstanding the situation. They were just passionate adventurers who happened to stumble into this dungeon by chance. They have no intention of interfering. In fact, here, this little skewer is their way of apologizing. He knows hanging out in a dungeon like this must make a guy hungry. Nagi's fully aware that he has no chance in a straight fight, so first, he's going to weaken him. Duriken accepts immediately, starts eating and says it's amazing. Really, the flavor is fantastic. Then he smirks, calling the kid an idiot for thinking a cheap trick like this would actually work. And bam, he swings, saying this is his way of saying thanks for the meal. Nagi manages to block it, but he gets launched way off into the distance. The only problem? He's still chained to Nero, which means she's about to get dragged along with him. She braces herself while Naji is flying through the air, but before she can pull him back, Durakan scoffs, saying it's hilarious how amateur they are, can't even break the link between them. He charges in, declaring that this will be their final resting place in this world. But Destur steps in, shouting that he's not going to let him lay a finger on Nero. There's an explosion in the middle of the island, and when the smoke clears, Durakan looks stunned. What even is that weird creature Destur just summoned that managed to block a punch? Destur doesn't flinch. He simply asks if Durakan isn't the one who invited them to this place but then didn't show up. Durakan replies that yeah, he sent the invitation, but he didn't think anyone would be dumb enough to actually come to something like this. Still, the two of them fit the setup perfectly. A necromancer and a beastkin girl. Just ideal. Destur tells Nero not to worry. Once their leader comes back, it'll be 3 against 1, and they might stand a chance. For now, they just need to buy time. His golem might not pack much of a punch, but it can hold out. He just has to push forward and fight like he did in training. Dude, they're really going at it, huh? And this Mithril-ranked guy, he's having a harder time than expected. On the island below, Naji's knocked out cold. Petra is right beside him, checking if he's okay. She tells him she already performed some emergency treatment, and he thanks her. But the situation up there, not good at all. Honestly, I'm still shocked Nero, and Destur are holding out. Weren't Mithril-rank adventurers supposed to be godlike? I thought he'd land a single hit, and they'd be done. Nero's flipping around like crazy. Durakan swings at her, but she dodges at the last second. The golem jumps in to block the attack. He grabs the golem by what looks like hair, even though it doesn't have any, and slams it into both of them. Down below, Nagi's awake now, and he admits it. He made a mistake. He should have realized that kind of poison wouldn't work on someone Mithril-ranked. He asks Petra for more intel on the guy. He's Mithril, so there's gotta be something. She explains he's considered unmatched in close quarters combat. On top of that, his dungeon clear records are insane. He's notorious for picking fights with other adventurers and always winning. He's also a master of the greatsword. Once he split an orc clean in half with a single swing. Naji yells at her. He asks for weaknesses, not Durakan's greatest hits. But Petra ignores him and says the bigger problem is time. Even if they could beat him somehow, they're running out of it. The end of the dungeon is just ahead, but they're not going to make it. If it weren't for that damn curse wrapped around their arms, maybe they could have escaped or done something about it. That's when Naji has an idea. They've been treating the curse as a handicap, since if one of them falls, they all fall. But the reverse is also true. If one of them reaches the top, they all do. It was time to turn this curse into a weapon. Not only could they take down this mithril bastard, they could finish the whole dungeon in one move. He starts going over his cards, thinking about all of his teammates' abilities, everything they can do. Individually, none of them is impressive. But if he combines everything they've got, maybe there's a way. He turns to Petra and asks if, using her scouting talent, she can get a read on the terrain at the top. She says that from this distance, easy. She can generate a full map. He tells her to do it fast. She pulls out a quill, and in seconds, the map's complete. Naji looks it over and says the detail is beyond what he expected. Funny how they're down here planning like this, right? Meanwhile, how's that fight up top going? Petra glances over and says, I finished the map, but how exactly do you plan to use it? Naji answers that the map's gonna be used to take down that beast. This fight wasn't between humans. It was between a human and a beast. I'm not even sure where he's going with this, but let's see. He says it's common for adventurers exploring dungeons to run into monsters way stronger than they are. Petra says maybe they deal with it using experience or strategy, but Naji shakes his head. Nope, she doesn't get how things really work. Real adventurers win through trickery. 2-on-1s, throwing bombs, laying traps, attacking from behind. To take down a beast, you gotta fight dirty. And with that, he launches himself into the air and fires a shot from a crossbow. Durakan senses it instantly, snatches the bolt midair and scoffs, saying a sneaky attack like that was never gonna work on him. But right at the tip of the bolt, there's a strange goo. It starts swirling, and before Durakan realizes it, he's stuck to the ground. He grumbles that the stuff is disgusting and starts trying to break free. Meanwhile, Naji's flying in at full speed, hand digging into the backpack. The grin on his face says it all. He's coming in for a head-on confrontation. Finally, he's actually feeling fired up. Until he throws out his hands and just launches a bunch of mushrooms at him. It's like a smoke bomb. All at once, a huge cloud erupts around them. Durakan's standing there in the haze, trying to figure out how Naji covered the whole area like that. Within the smoke, we find Destur. He's wrecked. Naji asks if he's okay, and the guy groans, obviously not. His fingers are all broken. He can't summon golems properly anymore. Each finger corresponds to a golem, and he needs them intact to summon. It's kind of like that old manga Maruhan where the dude's friend would always break his fingers to. Naji turns to them and tells them to listen closely. There is a way they can turn this whole thing around. Back inside the smoke, Durakan finally breaks free from the sticky web. He mutters that Nagi's annoyingly persistent. They probably followed with their group to another island, but all this effort is pointless. Then he sees something walking nearby, a figure with a giant backpack. Whatever it is, it's talking. Durakan is certain it's Nagi and mutters how pathetic he is. What's the point of all that smoke if you're just gonna talk and give away your position? He rushes in, hand glowing with power. unleashes a devastating punch. Boom, direct hit. But then his expression changes. His hand just went straight through a golem. He stares confused. Why was the golem talking? That's when he realizes the voice wasn't coming from the golem, it was coming from the backpack. So, where's the real group? Maggie's way in the back, holding onto a rope. Duriken spots it, leading up to the island above, and mutters that it was a decent plan to distract him. Not bad, really. But now that he's caught on, he says there's no way for Maggie to escape. Maggie responds, "You sure about that?" Then shouts for Deshtar to go ahead and launch it. They're running out of time. Deshtar hesitates, saying he's never done something like this from so far away. His fingers broken and tied to the rope, Naji shot up to the higher platform. At the end of the rope is a little finger stump. It suddenly glows and boom, turns into a giant bear golem. It lands on the top island, wraps the rope around its shoulders, and starts hauling everyone upward. But it doesn't stop there. It rushes straight at the dragon, latching onto one of its scales. And yeah, it also blows up the entire island in the process. Meanwhile, Duriken's panicking. He doesn't understand why he can't move. Then he notices the golem's legs were buried and pinned to the ground by a mass of cords. He tries to shove the golem off him, but Deshtar speaks up, saying it's not gonna be that easy. That golem thumb may be the slowest of all, when it's also the heaviest and most durable. As they're all being pulled upward, Nanji says again, this was never a fight between humans. It was a fight between a human and a beast. The island above is cracking apart, everything coming down. And Naji admits, yes, there are beasts that can't be defeated. But defeating Duriken, that was never the goal. The dragon keeps falling, jaws wide open, heading straight for Duriken. At the same time, Naji yanks the backpack and the golem tears the ground apart. The creature's still clinging to the scale, but the rope's starting to fray. As Duriken gets dragged down below, Naji and the rest are pulled upward by the rope. He shouts down to Duriken, saying he better climb fast, because the road ahead just got a whole lot longer. And just like that, they're all scrambling up top. Naji's smiling, pumped up, saying the fight's about to be over. He thanks Nero because if it weren't for her, none of it would have worked. She was the only one strong enough to throw the rope all the way from the lower island up to the higher one. She's all slouched over in chibi mode, saying it was nothing. Deshtar, on the other hand, is jealous. He mutters that it wasn't a big deal at all. Anyone with enough strength could have done it. Even an idiot could have pulled that off. Doesn't matter what anyone says, the real MVP of this dungeon was definitely him. His little golem not only secured the rope up top, but also brought down that berserker. Maybe he's already better than a mithril-ranked adventurer. Petro, watching the two, comments that at least they're enthusiastic. Maggie responds that this is what it feels like to clear your first dungeon. Man, if it were me, I'd already be bragging all over the place. First dungeon, and it turns into this huge mess. Come on, I just wanted to kill a few goblins and level up in peace. He goes on to say that the satisfaction of finishing a dungeon doesn't come from one person's incredible skill, but from everyone working together for the win. He also makes sure to praise Petra, saying she was essential too. He'd heard that inspectors had some kind of scouting ability, but he always thought it was something basic. When he asked for a map, he never imagined she'd create a perfect replica in just 1 second. It was only thanks to that he could plan everything down to the explosion. He's sure even professional scouts would be impressed. Smooth talker, got everyone blushing. And Petra, in her head, is thinking that for all the praise he's giving everyone else, the most impressive one is still him. To come up with a plan like that on the fly, there's no way he's just a simple porter. How could someone with that much talent be stuck in such a low-tier job? But then again, the kid was born with a backpack talent, and the world didn't exactly do him any favors. Deshtar wants to know what's going to happen to that berserker. Everyone agrees, at the very least, he should be locked up for the rest of his life. But Petra isn't so sure. As serious as his crimes were, he's still a mithril-ranked adventurer, and the stronger an adventurer gets, the more above the law they become. Someone at that level is practically protected on a national scale. Most likely, he'll just pay a fine and that'll be it. Seems like everything bad that happens in dungeons just gets solved with a fine. Deshtar grumbles that he doesn't care. If that guy doesn't get punished by the law, he'll find him outside and beat the crap out of him himself. Nagi quickly tells him to let go of that dangerous idea. What they saw Duriken do earlier was only a small fraction of his real power. He points to the creatures around them. Those are the corpses of the Nose tribe, the ones who used to guard the fortress entrance. That guy cleared the whole area by himself. Nero and Deshtar are still fired up, insisting that they could have handled it too. Nagi says he already knows they're confident, but tells them to look more closely at the bodies. The cuts are all at the exact same height, which proves the guy likely killed them all with one single strike. The truth is, an adventurer's strength shines depending on the weapon they've mastered. And they need to remember, when they were fighting Duriken, he didn't use his greatsword. He didn't use any talents either. He was fighting them with nothing but brute strength, nothing else. Deshtar pauses and says now it all makes sense. Everything happened because the moment that guy saw them, he charged in, leaving his sword still stuck in the boss. As soon as he hears that, Naji stops for a second. If that guy fell along with the boss's body, then yeah, that means he's down there now with his sword in hand. The bastard's smiling, and that's when the real fight begins. A slash comes tearing up from below and Naji shouts for everyone to watch out. Oh boy, looks like the attack is gonna nail Deshtar straight on. Man, the guy launched some massive strike from down there, sliced right through the platform. What the hell? Why did I have to open my big mouth too? Naji says the guy felt way too strong to be mithril. Now everyone's hanging off the edge of the little island trying not to fall. Naji checks in, asking if everyone's okay, but after just one hit, they're all scraped up and wrecked. Nero's slumped over like a ragdoll, and the worst part, Deshtar's passed out and he lost his necromancer arm. But honestly, the most terrifying thing wasn't even the attack. It was looking over and seeing Durican, already almost right there, closing the distance with bloodlust in his eyes. Maggie knows he'll be at their side any second now. At best, it got 3 minutes left to finish this. But if there's one thing Naji is confident in, it's carrying stuff. If there's one thing in this life he knows how to do, it's that. The only difference this time is, what he's carrying is a bit heavier. He closes his eyes, grabs hold, and starts pulling everyone. He's climbing, dragging 3 bodies with him, and the clock is ticking. Durican's getting closer and closer, smiling like a madman. The hourglass is nearly empty when Naji finally reaches the top, hauling everyone with him. The last grains of sand fall, just as Durican jumps to the final level. He's grinning as Naji clutches Deshtar in his arms. Those endless grains of sand, man. The gate's right there, glowing bright. They rush into the exit and come face to face with the crystal, the dungeon's core. Break that, and it's over. Nagi reaches into the backpack, pulls out a sword, and hurls it, spinning straight toward the core. But just before it hits, boom, something crashes down from above. Of course it's Durican. Nagi sees him drop right in front of the crystal, swatting the sword aside, now face to face with it. He calmly says, "Time's up." Damn it. And yeah, it explodes right at that moment. Outside, the dungeon break begins. There's an old man praying at the portal. Buddy, you better run unless you've got a death wish. He's looking around, asking if God has abandoned them. And seriously, this dungeon break feels kinda unfair, doesn't it? They took out the monsters inside, so why are all these beasts pouring out now? A whole swarm charges out. Even a boss shows up. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but at least Nagi's group ends up face to face with the monsters. The only problem? In a dungeon break, the number of creatures that spawn is endless. Durican grabs Nagi by the neck and asks, "Isn't it magnificent?" The sight of a dungeon breaking, it impresses him every time. Nagi takes that to mean this guy has caused others before. And Durican just confirms it, says it's obvious. But someone as weak as Nagi could never understand. When a dungeon breaks, it usually regenerates into something far more powerful. Meaning, the rewards inside also increase drastically. Right then, Nagi understands why he did it. And he starts to wonder, did he truly not care about the villagers? The bastard says, of course not. Adventurers live for one thing only, greater rewards. Whatever happens to weaklings like Nagi doesn't matter to him. And in that moment, Nagi can't help but feel how familiar this all is. Adventurers weren't heroes, they were its saviors. In the end, they were just selfish people. And he hated people like that. He'd seen it too many times, the destruction that adventurers with power and malice tend to bring. But when he spots a giant bird soaring overhead, he says that, on the other hand, as rare as it is, there are still those out there with great power and virtue. On top of the massive bird stands a girl, one of the fierce ones, no doubt. She calls out that she's ready, confirms the target, and then dives off in this dramatic, almost theatrical fall. She lands with purpose, announcing that she's going to wipe everything out before the rift spreads any further. Her first move is a slash, using the talent of a magical swordswoman, igniting a blazing trail of fire right across the boss's back. The gnolls are already panicking, scrambling to escape as they're swallowed up by a storm of flames. Durican and Petra both watch with stunned expressions, and that's when the real powerhouse arrives. She introduces herself as Agnetha Farija, vice captain of the Twilight Wind, and without missing a beat, she demands that they start explaining what exactly happened here. Next chapter, all those beasts are going up in flames and Nagi's completely wiped out. Petra asks if he's okay, and he says yeah, but still tells her to take a look. The dungeon rift was already starting to close. Durican wasn't happy about that at all. Even if it was a low-level dungeon, how the hell did she manage to end it all with just one strike? It was seriously impressive. Then he straight up calls her out like, "Hey girl, I know your guild's broke, so what are you even doing here? Weren't you all inactive for 3 years?" But Admisa just answers cool as ever, saying she knows full well that based on the scene, he's the one who caused it, and there's no time for explanations. There's no way a mithril rank adventurer would have failed like that, so he must have done it on purpose. Durican just wants to know if she's really trying to start a fight, but even though he's acting all confident, inside he's panicking, thinking she's one of those people he always wanted to face off against at least once, just not like this. That slash that split the island in two left him drained. Plus, his master had given strict orders not to stir up trouble, and on top of that, he'd already achieved the main goal, so there's really no reason to fight. He throws the sword over his shoulder and starts walking away. Agnesa asks if the loser's really gonna run off, but he tells her not to get the wrong idea. He's a smart adventurer. He knows that in this situation, victory isn't guaranteed. He already got what he came for, so he's leaving. But Nero calls him out, telling him to stop lying. Everyone knows he wasn't just trying to trigger a dungeon break. He was hiding something, especially after trying to kill him. But the bastard pulls out the lamest excuse ever, saying there must have been some curse in the dungeon that made people not in his party look like enemies, that attacking their team was never the intention. He just thought they were monsters. If they wanted to check it out, they could go back in and see for themselves. It's just a shame the dungeon already closed, right guys? Since there's no one to verify anything, well, that's the story the association's gonna hear. The poor group just slams their fists on the ground. If this goes to court, the jury's definitely gonna side with the guy who's ranked mithril. Wide hips Petra knows that telling the truth won't help at all. In the end, they'll come out as the losers. And Durican just walks off waving goodbye. The four of them stand there seething, staring him down in rage, while Naji tries to calm things down, saying, well, at least we stopped the dungeon break. But suddenly, he drops to his knees. The guy's completely drained. The Queen of Twilight glances back and sees the kid knocked out, his hand all messed up. She quickly tells them to throw him onto Aeginon, the bird, because she'll take him for treatment. And with that, this chaotic dungeon came to an end. At least the village was left untouched. Not long after, folks from the association showed up bringing treasure chests and apologizing for everything that happened. They swore they were working hard to make sure it never happens again, but obviously, that's just talk. Thanks to Agnes's help, Nagi was taken to the eastern city of Bellum, and in this abandoned shack that looked like a knockoff version of the Black Clover hideout from Walmart. Yeah, that was actually Agnes's base. Nagi wakes up there. Man, doesn't he look like a girl with that long, soft hair? Petra's sitting next to him. He gets up all groggy, not knowing where he is. He calls out for the inspector, and she jumps up right away, already asking how he's feeling. The rest of the crew's all there too, clinging to him, grabbing his face, saying they thought he was dead, but he just wants to know where he is. The last thing he remembers is seeing that berserk guy running away. They tell him, this is the Twilight Crew's base. Agnes had even hired a priestess to heal him. Nagi says now it all makes sense. That's why he's not feeling any pain, and everyone else looks fine too. They reply that it's nothing big for first-rank adventurers. But come on, this was their very first adventure. Destra then says that, yeah, for a first time, that was one hell of a journey. But when he saw how happy the villagers were, he finally understood what being an adventurer is really about. He's all smiley thinking about the little flower girl. For them, it was just a dungeon raid for glory. But for the people in that region, it was the salvation of their homes. And so they all apologize for being arrogant at the beginning. They're already swearing to our guy that they want to become true adventurers. Nagi just says it's good to hear that. He's relieved that in the end, the village was protected. And now that everything's over, maybe it's time he tells them the truth. He's not a gold-ranked adventurer. In fact, his rank was even lower than the other two. He was just a white-ranked porter. What now he's suddenly full of insecurity? He's sitting there wondering, will they still treat you the same way? Of course not. Then, going full drama mode, he says, guys, I gotta tell you something, but please don't get mad. The truth is he faked being the leader, pretended he was strong, said he was gold-ranked, and all that. Niramiro asks if that's it and says, yeah, it's understandable. Nothing much they can do now. Next time, he's carrying their gear, but for now, he can rest. The door closes, and Petra asks if he really had to go and tell the truth. He answers that all he hopes for is that they truly become good adventurers. After all, now that he's going to be working as a porter in this region, sooner or later he's bound to run into the two of them again. And it's better they find out the truth from him than through someone else down the line. Suddenly, Petra clenches her fists and says that Naji really isn't an adventurer. In her job as an inspector, she's met countless ones, and most of them only care about treasure and would commit any kind of atrocity for profit. But she's already seen that he's different. Even when there was nothing to gain, he cleared that dungeon and risked his life just to save the village. He's the first person she's ever met who isn't an adventurer. He's a hero. She takes his hand as he lies there, eyes closed, still a bit out of it. Mostly because he's thinking. She has no idea what I just did. Back when Durakan and Agnesa were arguing, he noticed something odd to the side. From the middle of the dungeon rift that was closing, a chest started falling, clearly the reward for the break. While everyone else was distracted, he used the last of his strength to shove everything into his bag. And now here he is, hugging it like it's the greatest thing ever. He kept the entire reward for himself again, 2 times in a row. But Petra wasn't the only one who got the wrong idea. Obviously, Niramiro and Deshtar misunderstood it too. Outside, Niramiro says, Deshtar, did you hear what Nagi said? That he's just a porter? Deshtar laughs and tells her she must have figured it out. It was obvious. He says, yeah, Nagi's actually a legit gold-ranked adventurer who just likes pretending to be lower-ranked. He might think he's fooling them, but they're not that dumb. Okay, maybe they kind of are. To be fair though, Nagi did pretty much handle everything on his own, so it makes sense. The problem is, this little incident that started everything. It was about to snowball into something way bigger. Durkan walks up to a guy in a white cloak who asks what the interference was. The guy explains that they ran into a strange group and ended up clashing with the Wind of Twilight. The masked man says there's no way they're letting anyone mess with the plans of the Dawn Guild. Meanwhile, at the guild, someone else is standing up, barely keeping her balance. Girl's totally out of it, huh? She's thinking about a conversation she had with Petra about Naji. Along the way, she had asked Petra what actually happened. Why was everyone so beat up? Why did the boy pass out? She wanted the full story. Had they really entered that place without permission? Because the group she saw in front of her didn't match the one that was officially registered. But Petra tells her not to worry, she's not here to judge anything that happened. She just wants to understand the situation. She came all the way here to investigate these dungeon break incidents. Lately, she's been looking into it, and it seems like most of the breaks are somehow connected to the Dawn Guild. And now it just happened here too. Strangely, Petra is surprised. Durrican clearly caused it on behalf of Dawn. He even let something slip at one point. Petra says, fine, she'll explain everything, but on one condition. She has to keep everything illegal at Maggie get a secret. With that said, Petra begins telling exactly what went down in there. Back with Agnesa, she still can't believe that the so-called gold-ranked adventurer was really just a backpack boy. If the Dawn Guild hadn't interfered, everything would have been a breeze for him. But what blows her mind is that he still pulled it off. And even more impressive was the kid's mindset, the fact that he risked his life to stop that break. As she walks in, Nanji asks if she was the one who saved him. Why has this kid always got his eyes closed? She just wants to know if he's okay. And he says he is, thanks to her. Then she says, I'll get straight to the point. With the authority I hold in the Wind of Twilight, I hereby order you to join my team. He just replies with a simple, no thanks. The next chapter opens with some background on Wind of Twilight. Once one of the most prestigious guilds in the Eastern City, or at least it used to be, until their guild master vanished. After that guy disappeared, the guild went into decline, and now, after a long time, they're holding a meeting. The purple-haired girl speaks up right away. I'm against this. Puffy-cheeked Aunt Dorothy says that no matter how desperate they are, they can't just start accepting anyone. The other guy at the table, named Nines, agrees. Agnes is clearly losing at trying to recruit a guy like that. Not to mention, he looked like a damn porter for crying out loud. But the priestess named Pororo says they're being way too strict. She supports bringing someone new in. Anne instantly snaps back that she's sure the only reason Pororo wants him in is because he's probably good-looking. Pororo says, absolutely not. She was only focused on healing the guy, and there's no way she'd care about stuff like that. Anne and Nines, by the way, are both gold-ranked. Pororo and the big bear guy are bronze-ranked. The bear tries to calm everyone down, saying there's no point in fighting, since it's ultimately Agnes's call. The girls, though, don't seem to like that and say they have minds of their own, and if he keeps yapping, he's going to end up without any healing. The big guy senses he's about to be caught in the crossfire when suddenly the door swings open. Beautiful Agnesa walks in and says they don't need to worry. He turned them down. Everyone turns to her, confused. In the next room, there he is, the boy with his big old backpack, wrapping up his arm and tying his hair back. He stretches his arms and says he's ready. Petra asks if he's already leaving. Wouldn't it be better to rest just a little longer? But he says no, it's time to get back to adventuring. She says okay, but wants to know why he turned down the invitation to join the Wind of Twilight. Guilds come with a lot of perks. He says he knows, and yeah, being in a guild has its benefits, but getting involved with a lot of people always leads to headaches. That's why he likes things the way they are, simple, familiar. Petra says all right, if that's how he feels, she's not gonna push it. But you should remember, he's interfered with the Dawn Guild's plans twice now. He'd probably be better off with some guild protection too. The boy, confident as ever, tells her to think about it. He walked away from both situations just fine. Please, my dude, you literally woke up passed out in bed. Not exactly intact. But Petra just nods and says she'll be heading back to the association. He thanks her for everything. As she's leaving, she tells him she'll be waiting for him to stop by sometime. As soon as she walks out, he smirks. He's hyped to check out the loot he snagged. Right away, he calls out for gluttony and dives into the bag to see what kind of treasures he got this time. With that absurd bag, he can walk, run, even tear through space itself. And deep in that bag, there's gluttony. Our boy asks what that face is about, and gluttony just says it's nothing. Naji tells him to spill it. What was inside that chest? He's dying to know. But gluttony insists it was nothing, just an empty chest. That instantly raises Naji's suspicion. How does a dungeon break chest come up empty? Gluttony says there's nothing shady about it. He can just move on now. Yeah, right. Naji goes to open it himself, saying he's got to check with his own eyes. He starts to lift the lid, light shines out, he's all excited to see what treasure it holds, but then his expression drops. Inside were 3 little bears. Bro, what the hell? What is this? He's sitting there confused, wondering if they're like puppies or some kind of weird baby creature. Then he turns to Gluttony and demands an explanation. Where the heck are the rewards he earned? Gluttony, now crying, says he didn't do anything wrong. He was just taking up the bag like usual. And when he opened it, there were like 3 weird eggs inside. Before he could do anything, a little arm popped out of the first one. And then, out to nowhere, those 3 little critters just popped out and Gluttony went full soft, hugging them like a baby. Naji kinda believes the story and figures they're probably stone monsters that came out of that dungeon. Usually, there are people with the tamer class who love this kind of thing. But judging by their looks, yeah, he's pretty sure these aren't the kind of monsters tamers usually go for. Which is a big problem for our guy. He just cleared a tough dungeon, kept the reward all to himself, and in the end, it's just a bunch of tiny creatures. So now, what's he supposed to do with them? That's when Gluttony explains he's heard of these three before. Their parents were enslaved by the serpent dragon from the castle, and to prevent the same thing from happening to them, they were sealed inside those stones, so no one would ever rescue them. He then asks Naji to let him take care of the kids. He promises Nagi won't have to worry about a thing. Naji turns around and says, "Fine, I guess. Not much I can do." They do seem kinda useful, so for now, they can stick around. But he lays down the law. If they cause a mess in the bag, he's kicking everyone out. Right after that, Gluttony calls out to the kids and tells them they've got permission now. Bro, what the hell? I thought there were 3 of them. Why does it look like an entire army now? Next thing you know, Nagi's already outside, hearing a whole lot of chaos coming from the inside. Yup, his bag had officially become a zoo. Even if the dungeon break reward wasn't what he expected, at least he still had the loot from the dungeon drop itself. Time to take care of that. At the trade post, he arrives and says he's there to sell all the magic stones and monster drops. The old guy tosses over a big sack of coins and Nagi's pumped. It'd been a while since he last saw one of those. But as always, it was time to restock. Mushrooms, the little things he uses for all his tricks, sharpening his weapons, picking up some extra arrows. Yup, the backpacker was fully geared up again. He grabs a watermelon popsicle and says it's time for a food tour through this unfamiliar city. While he's walking around with his arms stretched out like a plane, someone's watching him from afar, wondering if that's really the guy, the one who messed with the Dawn Guild. He thought it was just a ridiculous rumor, but it actually did look like the white-ranked kid. It was already wild that this kid took down those clowns and got them tossed in jail. But surviving Durican 2? That's something else. He asks what Zero thinks. Does this kid seem strong? The Shadow responds that it's happened twice now, so no, it's no coincidence. Even if he's officially a white rank, it's better to stay on guard. The guy stands up and says he's sure that kid's hiding something. He didn't want to get involved with him, but now he just hopes he won't be disappointed. Bro, is he going in for the attack now? What the hell? He explodes forward like a bullet straight at Nagi, who's just there, happily licking his popsicle, when he senses something coming. Something cracks, and he instinctively dodges to the side. Immediately, he asks, "Who the hell are you?" But the white-haired guy only wants to know how Naji managed to dodge that. He barely even let his killing intent leak out. Clearly, this kid wasn't just some average backpacker. Nagi's just standing there, bent over awkwardly, trying to figure out what this guy is even talking about, when bam, another slash comes in and he has to dodge again. The guy tells him to stop hiding and show what he's got. He wants to see this kid's real level. Enough of pretending to be white rank. Our boy is still a bit lost, but now he's got to focus. He spots the guy's insignia, gold rank, mage class. But this dude's charging at him like an assassin. And this level of hostility, it was too much. Just standing there doing nothing wasn't an option anymore. Alright, let's go. Naji draws his massive sword. The guy asks if he's finally ready to take this seriously. He wants to see the sword play Naji used to take those guys down. Nagi's sword play involves shoving 4 mushrooms onto the tip of his blade. The little guys are all wiggling around, and he launches in with a bomb right into the middle of the corridor. Our guy says only a crazy person would go head-to-head with an adventurer that strong. The perfect plan? Get the hell out of there. So he runs out into the street and starts yelling for help, shouting that there's a bandit trying to kill him. The guards turn to look, and Nagi points. He's right there. He's coming from that direction. I thought the dude would just vanish or back off, but nope. The guard recognizes him. That's Need from the Dawn Guild, and he says it's disappointing to see the kid run away like that.